Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and thank you very much for being here as we again use pop culture to inspire us in our tabletop role playing experiences. We are going to discuss a few but pivotal characters in the televised version based on a graphic novel series, The Boys. And I was tempted to pick Homelander, who we're going to focus on today, as um, a lead-in for the end of the week. But I said, no, let's get the biggest and baddest one out of the way right up front. Now, uh, a um, a note to all those who may be part of this. Yeah, but poop. Yeah, let's make sure we are laser focused on this video. Absolutely. Um, let me just say a slight preamble that YouTube has its own restrictions. We are playing in someone else's backyard. So the things that happen in this NC-17 X-rated very adult television show, we neither can show you or really delve into. Your comments will probably either get yourselves knocked or me knocked, but as well as the fact that we're going to have some discussions of some very adult material, and which may offend some ears this entire week. Not just today, especially today, but this entire week. So both at the same time, we may not do it justice, and we may also do things that if you are, it's not quite safe for work when we talk about this. All right. So again, if you're new to the channel and you're just showing up, we're taking a pop culture character, Homelander, and we're going to take this character, kind of give you a little background and break down the aspects of this character, and then use it for our own tabletop role-playing experiences, our world building, our content creation, and that sort of thing. We're not stealing. We're giving an homage to these characters and the archetypes that they represent. So let's get into it. Thank you guys very much for being part of the show. 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, live. You guys are my co-hosts, so exactly. Yeah, Drew. Oh man, this is a great show. So for those who don't know, The Boys is a television show about generally average people who live in a world where there are superheroes, masks, capes, and a it is very satirical. Yes, they try to base it in reality. They use a lot of influences over our world. You throw superpowers on top of it, and it just cranks the volume up to 11 very easily when it comes to people's narcissism and megalomania and desire for attention and love and power and influence, and how fragile human beings would probably be around superpowered people that can, shoot bolts of lightning, laser blasts out of their eyes, lift, heavy tonnages of weight. Most human beings would probably be quite, as depicted from the very first episode, when a young man's girlfriend, just casually steps off a curb, and it goes on from there. And this show is amazing. I love the comment. You know what? There should be a T-shirt with that. Stay laser focused, and somebody like looking to the side with their like laser beams going across the front of the T-shirt. That'd be awesome. All right, so let's get an image of Homelander here, because we have to show who this person is, what they are about, and this gentleman here, he should get an award. The facial expressions, the unpredictability that this guy is able to present to us as a villain is amazing. I guess you could claim that he considers himself to be a hero, maybe up until maybe season 3 or 4. but he's definitely the antagonist of the story. So Homelander is essentially Superman with megalomania, narcissism. I am not a person who knows how to diagnose anyone or anything when it comes to mental illnesses. But this character, with the weight, like the power of Atlas, with the weight of the earth on his shoulders, I'm sure he's carrying around dozens of psychological things, because he's that super that I'm sure he would consider himself to be. Would never consider himself to be so weak as to not have more psychological issues than any other human being. So, here's a background. This character, named John, was a child that was experimented on and given something known as Compound V. And Compound V from the corporation Vought uses this to create superheroes, the epitome of humanity, at least as it is portrayed through their propaganda. And Homelander is probably one of their best results in terms of being given Compound V. And he is Superman. Strength, flight, invulnerability, laser vision, X-ray vision, super senses and other aspects, and known as one of the fastest, strongest, most powerful beings. Of course, he's got the looks of a god, powers of a god, so he considers himself to be a capital G god in many ways. But despite him being a grown adult, he's very much a child. And to the point that they even, one of his proclivities is he has a great desire for, shall I say, addiction for breast milk. Yes, the fresher, the better. Directly from the cow to laying in the lap, in the bosom of a beautiful lactating woman. He loves he's got his fridge filled with some, and that is a physical symbol of the issues that this character has in the world and his unpredictability, because like a child, he has emotional issues and physical issues that he needs to satiate himself with, and he doesn't need to follow the rules of society. He doesn't need to even have a personal ethics or morality. And in many ways, he chafes at that because he knows he's better than everyone. He knows at a moment's notice that the people in and around him are fragile at best, nothing but feathers, paper-thin individuals who happen to be water bags. Humans happen to be water bags walking around, and it's crazy the descriptions that we could come up with. We'll get into some of his behaviors and some of his dangerous actions. Spoiler alert! Yeah, I should have a graphic that just says spoiler alert. The King says, the way everyone tries to justify Homelander's actions while cleaning up his image, it feels like the GM rationalizing a murder hobo. Yeah, in the truest sense, because the buckets of blood and gore that they have to like shovel and like scoop up around Homelander when they have to explain away his proclivities, yeah, it's very much like he definitely has a department of Vought that is his own cleanup crew. He has to have. There has to be. Except for the fact that he can, I don't know, charbroil a lot of his victims. Yeah. Was The Boys based on a graphic novel, or was it created for TV from the ground up? No. It is based on a graphic novel. And I dare say that the Boys... I dare say that the televised version of the show is better than the graphic novel. The graphic novel, let's get some images of it, of the titles and the books and things. The graphic novel is meant to be salacious. it is literally designed to be um, uh, both drawn, and the characters are, it's complete satire in the comic book industry, and is designed as a graphic novel to basically tell the artists and the writers what's the best thing we can do to turn someone's stomach, to turn someone off and go, you shouldn't really go in there. And so some of the characters, like for example, there's some that have been like the character A-Train. We're going to get into A-Train later in the week. Character A-Train has been like race change and things like that, but it doesn't matter. These characters are pervs. They commit sexual assault like nearly right in the beginning of the graphic novel. Here's an image from the very first episode of the show, where we get our introduction of Huey and holding the arms of his girlfriend, and we get that same introduction for this character to be part of the boys and inducted into the boys. So yeah, it's pretty horrible. Yes, Anthony Starr is superbly acting in the role. Oh my God, I almost fear Anthony Starr, in the sense that I hope he doesn't. You know how you have many actors become their characters. I hope he doesn't believe that he's that famous and gorgeous and can get away with stuff. But it would be pretty darkly hilarious if he starts to believe that he's actually Homelander. Oh man, the End King says, I like the juxtaposition of Homelander being impervious while also being so fragile. Yeah, his personality, his ego is paper thin. I mean, they're just regular old human beings that walk around him, that have to walk around on eggshells. It is dangerous, life-threateningly dangerous, to bring to him reality, human foibles and things like that. There are characters who say things in his presence that chip away at the very thin veneer of his ego and bravery and such. And he is a boiling mass of emotional energy. And I love his character because we as an audience, when we see this character, when Anthony Starr portrays him, he has this smile that goes from the nose down that doesn't reach his eyes when his personality changes. And he does some excellent face acting. He kind of does this jaw chewing thing. There's some actors that can do the jaw chew where you can see their mouth is closed or they're smiling, but you can see the muscles flexing in their neck and jaw. He has a smile that can fade into and out of his eyes. He has an intensity with his vision where I dare say it doesn't look like he's about to cry, but he's at that emotional change of, I'm going from like anger to a rage so great that you almost want to burst into tears, and he's magnificent in it. Yeah, Drew. Speaking of milk, speaking of milk, a firecracker reminds me a lot of my frother Vicky. In Slay Industries, I call it Slay Industries, SLA Industries, which is a tabletop role-playing game. We did a little review of it a little while ago, especially how much she is willing to self-destruct to get ahead in her career. For those who do not know, spoiler alert, Firecracker is a pretentious character, female, would you say extreme conservative soup who decides to have her have injections of sorts to enable her to lactate, though she is not impregnated. And she does so to gain just a little bit of an edge over Homelander, who admittedly says to her, like, I am not even sexually attracted to you. sexually attractive young lady. He's like, I don't even have that attraction to you. And then she unzips her top and squirty squirt right in his face. Oh man. And he is just like, he dives in, he munches and suckles and horrible. Drew says, yeah, it was based on a comic, yes, but I agree with DBJ. The show surpassed the comic by far. The comic book is, dare I say, it's page after page of old news comic pages. If you guys are old enough to remember the comics page in newspapers, and there were like a couple of panels, and you would see it, and these were like dirty comics. Essentially, the boys' graphic novel is basically page after page of nudity, sexuality, and superheroes all combined into a mishmash. Whereas a television show has clear storylines, and these characters take these stories. It is amazing. And strangely enough, we actually get some empathy from Anthony Starr's portrayal of Homelander when he returns, air quotes, home, and goes back to the lab that he was created in and experimented on. And we also get some empathy from him about his biological son, which has all other kinds of non-consent implications in that as well. But yeah, I believe rarely, when it comes to written material versus visual material, television show much better. The characters are well realized to the point that, when you're watching the show, the greatest impact we have is watching two characters talk, and we know as a viewer what's behind their eyes, but the words aren't spoken. And he does an excellent job of that. Hey, he does, Angel. Hey, what's going on there? Yeah, it's not. Yeah, Miss Death likes the boys. It's not really my genre, though. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, it's when you look past the salaciousness, it's a deep story. If you were to erase one aspect of the show, the exploding skulls and people being dismembered and being eviscerated and such, there is still an excellently portrayed show underneath it, and it's difficult for some people to get past one to see the other, but both exist at the exact same time. So some watch the show just because they're waiting for brain matter to splatter across a wall, and other people are looking at deep storytelling, and both are done very well in a comedic dark comedy, so it's pretty fun. Doesn't Homelander have some clone dressed in black who never says anything, whose only job is to keep him in line? There is a change from the comic series is that the character's name is Black Noir, and in the comic book, Black Noir is a clone of Homelander. In the televised series, they go a little bit, not deeper, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, because no one ever really knows who Black Noir is, and then you find out that there's always a brand new Black Noir. They just keep putting another character into that position. And so, yes, Black Noir was set up to be a Homelander clone. And what's really funny is Black Noir is supposed to be like a Batman type ripoff, but the character never really comes across that way. Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. Yes, it says, see, perhaps it's stuff like that makes me want to tune out. And you have I'm not going to convince you to engage in something that you don't like. I mean, it's subjective, right? That's something, and to be honest with you, me as a viewer, they have already said the show will end at the 5th season. And personally, I'm glad they're going to do that, because I can tell that the creators of the show are purposefully trying to push the envelope. And you can only do that so far until you get numb to it, and then it just looks like gratuitous to the point of being boring. And so it's extremely gratuitous, but you can also do it so much that you just start rolling your eyes, and it's like, okay, there's enough of this. Yeah, Dan King says those dirty comics were big in the 70s. There were also Tijuana Bibles from the 40s. Absolutely. For those who don't know, there were these, I'm going to call them black market underground, dirty comics, usually having black and white, and usually drawn with like a very curvaceous, beautiful woman in the comic, and a caricature of a gentleman that's just like horny with a big nose, drooling lips, thrust forward crotch, um, and just like yeah, and they would draw these comics, and they have these little short storylines. And there were a few panels. Some of them were just single panel comics. Some were like 3 to 5 panels long, and they were like underground where they would make money, but you were never supposed to admit that you collected them, even though they sold well. And yeah, they're very difficult to find now because they were made of that newspaper print, which is where the word pulp comes from. Because once they got wet, it would just turn into a ball of paper fibers. So yeah. Shai says the graphic novel doesn't have a real story, like it's a deliberate excuse to be as effed up as possible. Yes, it does have a story. The graphic novel does have a storyline. It's a bit secondary to the effed up situations. It's a little bit secondary. Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna go with you there, N King. Yeah. It does have a story. Just Garth Ennis is just a bad writer. Yep. And I mean, I don't know. You could claim that it's done on purpose. Just Shadow says, yeah, I'm admittedly a conservative libertarian. Maybe that's part of it. More power to those who like it, though. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. The show. Listen, if your politics is your religion, and you're easily offended, if you have a paper thin ego, you will never like this show. Even if you look past all the blood and gore, they take shots at our pop culture, at our politics, and social dynamics, and they go hard. They go absolutely hard. If you want to see parallels in our politics for good or bad, you're going to see it in the show. And they absolutely, it's very thin veneer. And I don't care what side you're on, they take shots. So it's also very offensive that way if your politics is your religion. Garth Ennis delivers some really great Punisher stories. Okay, all right. I haven't read Punisher in a long time. Shai says, wasn't there some parody of Tijuana Bibles in The Watchmen too? Yep. Yeah. One of the female superheroes from the first generation appeared in dirty comics all the time. The original Silk Spectre. She was a character from The Watchmen, and she took pride in those Tijuana Bible things, and her daughter was just like, Mom, really? And she was like, these were great. Shadow says, I'm much more into fantasy than sci-fi. Oh man, that means next week I won't be able to do okay. All right, that's anything. Yep. There you go, Drew. Yeah, the boy slaughters absolutely every sacred cow anyone could have. Period. So we've done a little bit of this, and we have to get into our ally, adversary, enemy, and rendition for, because this is technically tabletop role playing, and so the first thing we have to do that is going to piss off every single player you have ever had at your table for any reason, beginning of time to the end, general allusion to religion, amen. Okay, Homelander is the epitome of visual and social perfection. He looks like a movie star, a model. He is everything everyone who would be sexually attracted to him is, and every man wants to be this guy. He is supposed to represent the individual. He is Captain America. He is Superman. He is your top 5 no chest haired, oiled 6-pack individual who represents truth, justice, and the way of the location in which you live, kind of thing. That's why he literally dresses with a cape that is striped and has eagles emblazoned on his shoulders and whatnot. Yeah, he's supposed to be that person, and you want to get your players pissed off. See if we can get a good with some patriotism behind him. That's not the best one here. Get some patriotism set up behind him. This is the character to do it, and you set up an NPC who happens to have done things better, stronger, more famous, more charismatic. Yeah, this is that guy. Making him an ally? Difficult. Possible, but difficult. And some would even say, and they would be rightly so when player characters bring up this fact, some may say that, and this is often an issue with powerful, even in fantasy, right? Powerful NPCs that require the pissant, smaller NPC player characters. And why do they do it? Why do you need me if you're like 18th level fighter fantasy person, right? Like, why do you need my 3rd level character? And granted, even in the television show, they express that, like, why do we need this guy? Why does he employ everybody else to do it? Part of it is that Homelander has an ego and likes to have other people do things for him, because there are some things that are just beneath him. And he's also relegated to the point of, like, those in power, CEOs, people in political positions at the highest levels, parents even, there are certain actions that those at the highest level shouldn't be taking because it's beneath them to even do it. There should be other people handling these things before they take place. So yes, having a powerful NPC as an ally kind of defeats the purpose of the players twiddling their thumbs. Like, wait a minute, if you can go anywhere in the world at any time and you're the most powerful person in the world, why do you need me or us guys to do it for you? And so you're going to need to come up with a reason why, which means very quickly this ally very much will easily flow into adversary or enemy. But as introduced, maybe this very powerful character wants them to be part of the Seven, which is the superhero group in this world, and wants to recruit them. Maybe this character finds that it's forced socially to congratulate the player characters in their actions, and this ally is like, I guess I got to give them an award or a medallion or a medal, or acknowledge that they are creeping closer to my influence. Thank you so much, heroes. Eye roll, shrug, right? That kind of thing. The End King says, what if it's possible to play a Homelander type in a party without pissing everyone off? In terms of attitude, not powers. Ooh, difficult. A game, a Powered by the Apocalypse or Fate style game, you could do it. Numerically, you very much could not do such a thing. Unless you get someone who's a very good power gamer, who's like, oh, I know I made my character with the same points as all you guys, but numerically my character is far more powerful than you. But no, that's why in our tabletop role-playing community, there's such a conflict between character balance, right? It's usually not balanced against the enemies. Usually the balance is based on player versus player. My character isn't as effective as this other character, therefore the game is unbalanced. And that's where a lot of times it comes from. The End King says, we have a few people watching this morning. How many of us are up? Hey, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. I liked how Sage called him Blonde Ambition. That seems so fitting. Yeah, like a member of a boy band that leaves the rest of the group because he thinks he's better than everyone. Very much. Sage. I should have put Sage. I thought about doing one about Sister Sage. She's a newly introduced character, but brilliantly written. Who says all the things that we want to say. Yeah. Starlight wasn't terribly attracted to Homelander now, was she? No. Well, you know what? No. She was attracted to the facade of Homelander from the beginning. And I don't think, when I say attracted, maybe not so much sexually, maybe more like the fame, the power, the position, and he does represent male, um, the pinnacle of masculinity. So yeah. Now, again, as an ally as well, Homelander may have some ways to make connections with the player characters. Is um, because the vast majority of the characters in this television show are created through being injected with Compound V, the player characters may have the same origin. Much like the X-Men are mutants, and the bad characters, bad guys, and good guys tend to have this gray area where they have a similar origin, and so they have a connection there. So the initial connection between a Homelander style NPC, whether it's fantasy, modern, or science fiction, and your player characters may be origin. Hey, we all escaped from the clutches of the evil corporation and were enhanced but brutalized from our enhancement. Or we all survived the bus crash after the asteroid landed that infected us. Or we all suffered under the old Lich King and went our separate ways, but come together because we want to take down the Council of Seven, because the Lich King has assembled a wizard's council, whatever the case may be. Common bedfellows. Now, attitude-wise, it can start to spread. So now, as an adversary, Homelander represents an adversary in the very beginning of the television show for The Boys. Homelander is a murderous sociopath that, and no one seems to have the power to stop him except to those who have learned his weaknesses. His weakness of always wanting to be loved and cared for and nurtured like a child. And his if someone is able to manipulate that, and need to manipulate that very carefully, because he can very much strike out like a child and murder kill you in an instance, because most human beings to him are just bags of fluid that have a temporary existence on the earth. I would dare say Homelander probably is immortal. They don't really mention it, but I would say that he's probably extremely long-lived, so he knows even if he waits long enough, people will just die off. And he gets very frustrated about having to navigate the social structures and legalities of human beings when he just wants to get, shit done. And so he's pretty nasty. And as an adversary, maybe this is okay, first of all, the player characters are going to need to know he's almost a character that you don't stat, because if you stat it, they can kill it. We all know this from Spoonie, okay? Counter Monkey, if you guys ever remember Counter Monkey from old YouTube. If you stat it, they can kill it. And which means that Homelander is almost a character that doesn't have stats, or is 25% better than the highest stat any one player character has. In a way, you could almost stat out Homelander by making one character based off of everything every other player character has, and then just increasing it 25%, 50% above that. Your smartest player character, throw that in the character. Hey, they have a classic D20, 18 intelligence, give them a 20. Their base perception, passive perception is a 27, give them a 35, right? Just make this character obnoxiously better than everyone else, and definitely the player characters will, at a minimum, consider him an adversary. Now, Homelander thinks people are below him, so the player characters may see the results of this powerful entity, Homelander-style character, without necessarily coming head-to-head. So, in a fantasy, modern, or sci-fi realm, he may be the protector of a city-state, of a planet, of a location that players may be traveling through, and they may even introduce themselves or see Homelander's actions, and players may say, "What the hell is this guy doing?" And no one says a word because they know how powerful he is, and the players may need to navigate, whether they're doing a heist or something like that, to navigate around Homelander as an adversary. Homelander may also be on the same side as the player characters. Player characters are cyber soldiers in a war, and Homelander may be another one of those soldiers that commands armies next to the player characters, but his actions are so over the top that the players may be questioning, are we on the right side? So Death Angel says I absolutely agree with you. Not in the future. In the televised version of the character, he is very solitary, to the point, like, because Shadow says Homelander is going to have a very solitary existence in the future. In the televised version of this character, he's already he is a species of one, and very few people, he can relate to very few people. As a matter of fact, you can count on one hand the people he can relate to. One of them is the person that wants to kill him, which is Billy Butcher. We're going to get into Billy Butcher tomorrow. Billy Butcher is literally his nemesis. In a classic comic book sense, Billy Butcher is the villain of Homelander's heroic mantra. Billy Butcher comes across as a classic supervillain of no one listens to me, no one listens to me about the danger. You'll all see I'm wearing black, I've got my emo outfit on, and say emo things to people around me, and I get my way with the power of my personality and violence. And Billy Butcher, strangely, is someone Homelander feels like he can relate to on an emotional level, and kind of keeps Billy Butcher around to entertain himself, because he needs an equal. He needs a nemesis in his life. And the second person that is like makes it so that he doesn't feel alone is his son, Ryan. That, unfortunately, Billy Butcher's wife ends up consummating with Homelander. Definitely not consensual, and gives birth to Ryan, and that's where Billy Butcher's hatred comes from, versus Homelander. And yeah, he uses it a lot. Basically, it's like, it's pretty nasty. He doesn't physically force her, but the threat of his violence kind of makes it that way. It's nasty. Shai says, the Supes aren't necessarily superhumanly intelligent, though, are they? They sure don't act like it. No, they're not. They are basically regular human beings. You remember as kids, and I don't say remember. Yeah, Drew. You're absolutely, yeah, he's definitely a paladin going very wrong. With who gets to keep all the paladin bullshit paladins have, which makes him even worse. He's like, I get to tell people what I want, and everyone respects me, and I've got my golden hair and stuff, and people gather in crowds, and short of handing out coupons for lube, they would get down on their knees and stroke them off if that were the case. Because literally in the television show, spoiler alert, Homelander is so arrogant that he unzips himself on the top of a giant skyscraper and proceeds to spread his fluids all over the city like rain, because he thinks he's a golden god and can do anything. Yes, they show him performing that act. Wow. Yeah. Enking said they are Greek gods, immensely powerful and deeply flawed. And one of the things they really accentuate in the television show is they take the childhood aspect of, as kids, we say, if you could have any one superpower, what would it be? And you go through the thing, I wish I had super healing or invisibility or could read minds or could lift things like telekinesis with my mind. I had super speed. I could fly as children. And then as children, we imagine what we would do with that. If I could turn invisible, I would steal candy from the corner store because I don't have enough money to buy it. Hey, if I had flight, I would fly to every comic book convention and be home so I wouldn't get in trouble and still get my homework done. If I had super speed, I would do all my chores. Childish stuff. Now take that concept and put it on people who are not healed, who like the rest of us have flaws and insecurities in our lives, and then stack superpowers on them. Like a person who wins the lottery. Imagine if you had super strength and you're waiting in line and you have that one person, that asshole in front of you who is disrespectful to you and the retail clerk who, has faint triggers you because they have faint illusions of hatred and prejudice against you, and you've got super speed. With the flick of your wrist, you can toss this person 50 feet into a brick wall and I don't know, crack their skull open and solve the issue. And how many people with super speed that could lift, I don't know, a couple of dozen tons wouldn't use that power to crush the people around them that annoy them? And that's what the show really does. We're going to talk about A-Train's and A-Train's flaws. Homelander absolutely fits into that. He's basically a man-child and probably needs to be in therapy. But who's going to tell him he needs to go? Because the first person that suggested is dead. And the second person that suggested is dead. And so on and so forth. Speaking of Greek gods, I finally started reading Hyperion, and I love the prose from the first page. Really? Hyperion. I know the show Dan Simmons, Hyperion. It's a little, some would say it's a little dated, but it isn't. It is beautifully written. It's definitely a cantos, and you'll enjoy it. So yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to go too far in that. Maybe we may one day do a deep dive into Hyperion. The Hyperion Cantos, and then Endymion and Endymion Falls. Endymion Rising. I can't remember. 4 of them. I'm not going to look it up. Let me give you another example of Homelander's horror that happens early on in a television show. Yes, spoiler alert. So an aircraft is in trouble, and Homelander flies to the aircraft in the hopes of saving the aircraft because it was taken over by terrorists, if I'm not mistaken. And Homelander very quickly dispatches the terrorists and kills them all. But unfortunately, due to his own fault, he laser blasts the pilots and they're dead. So now the plane is out of control. And normally a Superman type character would figure out a way to save the lives of everyone on the plane. And it is suggested to him by another character, Queen Maeve, who's another member of the Seven. Like, well, why don't you just go outside and use your vast super strength and carry the plane? And he's like, well, my strength doesn't really work that way. Like, I don't have anything to push off of. Now, mind you, when you're watching the show and he makes this, he says this, I wondered three different things at the same time. And this is the brilliance of how the actor portrays the character. One, is he telling the truth, which could very well be the truth in a panic situation? 2, does he just not feel like expending the energy to do a thing? Does he say that because, you know what, I don't even feel like going through the trouble of flying outside this plane, trying to lift it up? And the third reason is maybe he could possibly lift a plane, or maybe he's not strong enough to do such a thing. That he doesn't have the willpower, the fortitude, the intellectual capacity to overcome his own weaknesses and have the emotional strength to save these people. He's a sociopath. He doesn't have the care to save 150 plus souls on the plane, and doesn't even attempt to carry the plane with his super strength or guide the plane or whatever the case may be. And instead, so Queen Maeve suggests to him, well, why don't we save some people? Because Queen Maeve's like trying to grab people. And he's like, we can't just save some of them because the other people who die on the plane, they're dead, and the people we save will know what we did. They will know of our failure. Either we have to save them all, impossible, or they all have to die. Queeve Maeve is like, hell no, we're not doing that. And his desire for her, and mind you, his desire for her wasn't necessarily sexual. It was more, she was a prop on his side in many ways, that he looked at her basically as a female prop, which is unfortunate as well. And he grabs her despite the fact she really wanted to save these people and lets the plane go down, and then proceeds to lie to the population that he just wasn't able to do it, and that there's evils in the world, and he twists it so much, and she's got to keep her mouth shut because she knows Homelander can glance at her and kill her. And it is a great, it's a great depiction of this character. Shai says, can Homelander transform himself into a bull and procreate with the most beautiful cow in the world, thus siring an entire continent? Yeah. Does he represent Zeus? Yeah, he does. Do they make allusions to that? Yes. As a matter of fact, oh my God, in the comic book, they don't do this with Homelander in the television show, but in the comic book, Starlight, who's a brand new superhero who gets inducted into the Seven, meets the Seven, and she walks into the Seven's boardroom, the classic superhero. We got a table shaped like a seven, and we're all sitting around it. And Shai says, well, you said Greek gods, right? Yeah, very much like Greek gods. And in the graphic novel, they proceed to tell her, if you want to be a member of our group, you must pleasure all of us men. And they drop trowel and force themselves upon her. And it is Queen Maeve and some of the other female characters in the graphic novel are visually assaulted. Yes, in the graphic novel. The televised version of it, they relegate that to the character The Deep and some other characters that have strange, deviant, non-consensual sexual proclivities. Homelander, they actually kept that away from him, and I think it makes him a better character that way. He has other. He's too much of a sociopath to be limited to just the female form or the male form to take advantage of that. So unfortunately, that was given to The Deep. Yeah. By the way, who's the Dionysus of the boys? Surely there's a drunk in the team, right? Wow. Somebody answer that, because A-Train is a little bit over on that side, and I believe The Deep kind of falls into that category. So yeah. Maybe they don't represent, because if you read comic books enough, the Justice League, sometimes the Avengers especially the Justice League, are considered parallels to the Greek gods. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is known as Athena or Hera, and Superman is Zeus and things like that. Mercury is what's Mercury's other name? Roman and Greek. Is the Flash, that kind of stuff. Shai says, hey, in that scene, does Starlight have to do Black Noir as well? Because he's standing right there, right? In the televised show, no, the only character that takes advantage of her like that is The Deep. And she does go along. It's so the televised version of the show, absolute Hermes. Thank you, Hermes, and thank you, Drew. Hermes and Mercury. The Flash represents Hercules and Mercury. As a Greek god. So A-Train probably does represent that character as well, because in Greek mythology, Hermes slash Mercury, it rides the rail. He's kind of neutral in the machinations of the Greek gods, because he's loyal through service, not necessarily through desire. And in the show, Starlight goes along with the act and is abused that way and taken advantage of that way because of her desire to want to be on this team that she thinks of as the epitomes of humanity. They are the purest ones, and this is in front of her face. And how does she say no in a situation? It's very much a Weinstein conundrum she is in, because if she says no, everything her parents have raised her and she's lived up to is for naught. So it's like, do I do this one dirty deed to get to this higher level? So yeah, shadows like Flash, Mercury, yeah, absolutely. In DC Comics, they've suggested that the Justice League are Greek gods, and they've actually had storylines where they've actually turned the Justice League into Greek gods. Different graphic novels and one-offs and things like that, or medieval stories that tell similar stories. Things, Green Arrow's like becomes Robin Hood, Batman becomes like the Scarlet Pimpernel and things like that. Yeah, there's different stories that way. Lastly, of course, Homelander is the epitome of an enemy, of a bad guy, and what makes him not just perfect in the sense that he's better than everyone, but the vast majority of people around Homelander, who are in his inner circle, who absolutely positively hate him, know that they can't speak up against him. And so the players will have a very difficult time finding allies against this powerful entity, because despite his smiles and his pats on the back and his seemingly innocent instructions to people, they know if they say no to him in any way, shape, or form, they're dead. At a minimum, they're out of a job and their reputation is sullied. At a maximum, they will get laser blasted through the forehead. Their families would get murdered, killed, all that kind of stuff. They'll lose all the privileges they gained after working for dozens of years to get to their position. So one of the most horrible things that Homelander does is that with a simple smile, a hand on the shoulder, a glance, a grin, he turns self-made, intelligent, productive human beings that have a self-actuation into children that shit their pants. And it's unfortunate because he absolutely takes these great people on their own and turns them into blubbering idiots because of his influence. And it's horrible to look at, because it's not that he grabs people and throws them around. He does intimidation. What he really likes to do is have people themselves, like the Saw movies, choose their own downfall. And usually the lesser of two pains is always horrible. I'll get to your comments in just a minute. A young lady standing on the ledge who is unfortunately about to take her own life and self-delete. Hopefully she stands there, sees him, this golden god would save her life and convince her not to do it. And he just looks at her and goes, it's my birthday and I don't really feel like doing it. I want you to jump. And he threatened at a certain point. She first, through his words, she actually is like, I really don't want to. This is really a cry for attention. He's like, yeah, I don't want to hear it. Please jump. And he threatens her. He's like, I could laser blast you right now because you're a useless human being. I would prefer you to just jump. And that kind of attitude is what he does. and for the player characters to see that and to try, and knowing that physically they can't fight against him that way, like to challenge him in a physical manner, I think would be pretty amazing for the players to have um, to they themselves, um, you know, take their ego down a couple of pegs and then try to rely on others around them and to turn against and find the weakness of this character. And that's very much Homelander's ego. He wants to be loved. He wants to be cared for. He is a child. The Yankees says copy and paste from Wikipedia. I don't know if this whole comment will. Yeah, it does show up. Dionysus or Dionysus is the god of winemaking, orchards and fruit, vegetation, fertility, festivity, insanity, ritual madness, religious ecstasy, and theater. Which character would that be? I don't know if there's any superhero who represents all of this, except maybe Iron Man, but he's not a Justice Leaguer. Yeah, maybe. I think an argument can be made that there's some characters that kind of fit into that category. I think if I would have to stop and think about a character that fits into that, but yeah. Usually a support character, but I don't know. Yeah. Hermes is Greek, Mercury Roman. Yep, same deity apparently. Yep, just different names, different languages. Yes, the Romans took the Greek pantheon and renamed them. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I sure did do that, didn't I? I noticed it and then I didn't change it and stuff. Yeah. I guess I should correct that. Yeah. Let's see if that's better, or will it change it on the fly? And yay, it changed. Wow. Usually, sometimes I do these things. Thank you for pointing that out. Honing the art of being at home. Yeah, he's honed. Shit, he honed his attitude. Oh my god. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Now I will say, lastly, as a plot point, what does Homelander want or need? He needs his ego stroked. And while we do see a lot of villains are like power hungry, we have a lot of classic villains that are like, I want to take over the world. I want to, open up a base on the moon. Homelander doesn't really want to be like the president or run the United Nations or whatever. He's more or less, I want everyone to keep continuing what they're doing, but don't question me when I come in. Don't question me when I ask for the thing that I want. And Homelander really wants to be worshipped like a god in many ways, despite the fact that once he gets it, he's kind of disappointed in it, because every time he intimidates a human being, he also realizes how fragile they are, which reinforces his attitude about how useless human beings are in the world. And so he has a self-fulfilling prophecy when it comes to intimidating people. And building monuments to his image, having people give him gifts, individuals dressed the way he dressed, people laughing at his jokes when he's not funny, that kind of thing, I think would very much be this kind of character. And yes, I think having him act, think of a preteen, maybe even a teenager, in the body of a godling, I think would be a great aspect of how this character is portrayed. And let the players figure it out, right? Like, let them say, man, he's acting like a kid. Is he a child or something? And then maybe even lead little bits of, like, maybe he kills lots of parents to have an entourage of children around him. Maybe he does have that, the yin-yanging of an NPC, of an enemy, where he's very much in defending children, but he also wants to twist their minds a bit. Pretty horrible. Yeah, he definitely is a diva. Uh, Absolutely. If he looks bad, he would rather. Another one of his weaknesses is just looking bad itself. Very much an Omni-Man, if we can look at and people have compared him to Omni-Man from Invincible in the sense of his what the public perception is. So he's more likely to shut down a protest that says Homelander is a fake, or he can't defend us, or he has some weakness. He's more likely to stop and shut that down than he is a growing army growing on the horizon to take over his nation state, because he's like, I could take them out and I don't need to worry. Like, he doesn't have long-term thoughts in his head, and he knows he's so powerful he could just go over and decimate a whole army on his own. There's no reason to think about it months ahead of time. It's like, yeah, when they come knocking at my door, I will murder kill them and get people to clean that up. Yeah, the End King says Omni-Man has a more concrete goal than Homelander. Absolutely. Omni-Man is is the much scarier version of an evil Superman, in my opinion. Yeah. And even comparing and contrasting the two, God, it's what is it? The Viltrumites are horrible. That's another comic book series that and that actually has an end goal as well. And there's another comic book series that's amazing, but the Viltrumites are horrible. Want to take over planets one at a time. Not to get political here, but the first time I saw Homelander, I thought he was an explicit Trump reference. Yeah. Well, Trump plus, I'll say. So they use him and many of the other characters as stand-ins at different points, and so yes, very much like politically that way. He's a stand-in for American exceptionalism. He's a stand-in for humans that have delusions of grandeur and stuff. Yeah, that plus more. Yeah, maybe it's a reflection of the real world. Hell yeah, absolutely. Death Angel says, I guess I dislike one character having absolute power. See, but just like creating a character like that elicits that thing out of us. So if we use that in a tabletop game, it would definitely spike you. It just rubs you the wrong way. Yeah, maybe it's really a reflection of evil, powerful leaders thinking, Saddam, Khomeini, yeah, Putin, Kim Jong, etc. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And see, and that's the point, right? Like these individuals are in the television show are. Homelander is a physical representation of human beings giving of themselves to this individual ultimate power. A, because he can actually take it, and B, people are convinced that his power is their power. And he clearly does not care about the people under him, but he's very willing to accept their praise if they think he and they, if the us normal folks and him are of an equal status. And he says it to people, all of you are the heroes, you guys are great. And they're just like, yeah, you should have all the power. And he just looks at them like, oh my God, he loves the love, but he hates the hate. Yeah. And the show very much reflects it in the ideologies and the thing. Yeah. And listen, like I said, there's no sacred cows in the show. If you have a paper thin ego and your politics is your religion, then that part of the show you're going to go, fold arms, pout. They're picking with my chosen direction of how society should be. Well, yeah, and they're also picking with everyone else's, and that's why I said the show, there are no sacred cows in the show. And it hurts people's feelings because the show displays in a very satirical, ironic way that that's the behavior people from the outside see of you. Not you specifically meaning in the chat, but you as in those who are a part of the show. If it reflects you and you're offended by it, then the show kind of makes a point, right? That's what satire does. It's a warped reflection of ourselves, and satire does that for us to go, from a certain point of view, yeah, I see what they're talking about. And the show does a great job at doing that. And of course, it mixes in blood and gore and sexuality and violence, and kind of mixing those things together as well. So anyway, thank you very much for letting me talk about it. I didn't talk too much about the tabletop role-playing aspect of it too much, but as a villain, he makes a great villain, especially one that comes across as so jovial and happy and smiling and golden. As a matter of fact, a lot of since we're going to talk about politics, we might as well add in a lot more religion here. The idea of the light bringer or morning star, Satan, was supposed to be classically we see pitchforks and evil and horns and flames, but there are many who say that he's actually supposed to be the golden child, to appear as a beautiful fallen angel. And Homelander is definitely that. He's the evil that comes at you with a smile on your face and a pat on the back, and requests of you a simple act that will change your life forever. Yeah, Denki says we always derail you. Yeah, I guess so. It's live, and I like the conversations. So listen, if we're going to bother getting together before or after a game at the table, that's going to happen, right? In between slices of pizza and sugary fluids. Yeah, it says, well, I never understood liking each other balance. Well, and see, that's the whole point, right? That's literally what the show is about, in terms of perspective, because we get different perspectives from different characters, and you go, well, wait a minute, right? My perspective, see, I can't get into it because I grew up on the East Coast, and long before Trump got into politics, he was an individual that just, God, he rubbed me the wrong way. He was like the epitome of Gordon Gekko, and it's just like, oh, yeah. Hope your next arbitrary fraction eternity gets off to a good start. Monday Part 2, yep. Yeah, well, that's not Homelander. Listening to people with other points of view, yeah, that's... Drew says, Genetically Modified Skeptic, the YouTube channel, made great video yesterday about how the show parodies Christianity. Yeah, it does that too. It does that too. So, listen, the boys, like I said, there are zero sacred cows. It goes after gender. It goes after woke politics. It goes after conservatism. It goes after all that. Yeah, I see my side as rebellion to Star Wars. Really? That's really weird. Although rebelling against the status quo could be seen that way, except for the fact that I always measure, and I use this as a general rule, I measure the conviction and the stability and grace of a way of thought or feeling based on how they treat people who don't agree with them. And like a gang, like joining a gang where you get your ass kicked to get in the gang, and you get your ass kicked or murder killed to leave it, doesn't engender itself to being a good thing, right? And I think of political extremism the same way. If I disagree with you, how do you treat me? Now, I might literally agree with you, but if I have one question, if I question a thing, if I disagree, am I the instant, well, if you don't like it, leave the country kind of thing? Or are you the embracing, okay, well, we think differently, but together we're we are the better for it. So let's come to an agreement. And neither side is doing that right now. So I don't like anybody in politics, to be honest with you. Any of them. And to me, Trump's attitude, not his politics, his attitude is one of a narcissist and megalomania. That's what I don't like. I don't like people forgiving him. There's no way you're going to get me to say the things that he said in public and say that it was just taken off the cuff, because I don't think that way. And am I judging another individual based on mine? Yeah. But simple manners and grace about thinking and talking about other people, name calling, and it's the behavior of a bully. And so that's why I don't like him and I don't respect him. Now, some would say, well, then that means you like the Democrats and Biden and stuff. No, one doesn't necessarily mean the other. I believe that people are too entrenched, and the fact that we even have a two-party political system sucks. I know there's other political parties. I know that. But the vast majority of people are so much of a follower that they won't even consider other parties because they think everybody else will drown out their vote and their choices and things like that. And no one wants to be on the outside because we're very tribalistic. And that's what I hate. So, guys, thank you very much for letting me spout some bullshit at the end of the episode. Please stick around for tomorrow because we're going to talk about Billy Butcher and A-Train and some of the other characters in The Boys. So this entire week, we're going to talk about The Boys and use that for our tabletop role-playing experiences. Like I said, this show brings out and goes after all sacred cows. And so very much it is definitely necessary for you to have a thick skin if you're going to watch this show. So guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it, and have a great day. Peace. I'm out. Which one do I want to take you out on? How about this one?